In the previous video we asked, what is the problem with both atheism and creationism? Let's start with creationism. Nearly all creationists believe the creation account recorded in the Bible book of Genesis to be true. However, some people take the Bible too literally and teach that everything in the universe, including the earth and all life on it, were created in 6 24-hour days some 10,000 years ago. This, however, is not what the Bible teaches. It speaks of God at 2 Peter 3 verse 8. For 1,000 years are to your eyes like a yesterday when it is going by, or a watch in the night. What does this mean? Just as Einstein taught, time is relative depending on your frame of reference. If God created time, space, and the universe, a single day to God could be 1,000, 100,000, or 100 billion years. Recent scientific models suggest the Earth to be around 4 billion years old. The point? Many people who believe in creationism reject scientific evidence that does not agree with their belief. But does this mean atheism is the proper path to choose? Science provides us with insights into the physical universe, meaning everything that is observable. A scientist can point to a diagram and list every molecule that makes up the planet. But no matter how far the investigation goes, it can never answer the question of why. Why do humans exist? Some say we evolved from a single-celled organism. Well, how did that organism get there in the first place? It evolved from the universe. Well, why is there a universe in the first place? None of us chose to be alive, so why are we forced to be here? One of the biggest problems is although science is a teaching based around facts, we and our offspring are being taught based on a theory. Charles Darwin, for example, taught that the small changes we can observe imply that much bigger changes, which no one has observed, are also possible. He felt that over millions of years, some so-called simple life forms slowly evolved, by means of extremely slight modifications, into the millions of different forms of life on Earth. To many, this claim sounds reasonable. They wonder, if small changes can occur within a species, why should not evolution produce big changes over long periods of time? The teaching of macroevolution is built on the claim that mutations, random changes in the genetic code of plants and animals, can produce not only new species but also entirely new families of plants and animals. Yet no one has seen this happen. In the late 1930s, scientists believed that natural selection, or the process in which the organism best suited to its environment is most likely to survive and breed, could produce new species of plants from random mutations. Therefore, they now assume that fake, or human-guided, selection of mutations should be able to do the same thing, but in a much easier way. Yet Wolfgang Lonig, a scientist from the Max Planck Research Institute in Germany, who has spent some 30 years studying mutation genetics in plants, said, "These researchers thought that the time had come to revolutionize the traditional method of breeding plants and animals. They thought that by inducing and selecting favorable mutations, they could produce new and better plants and animals." Though after 40 years of intensive research, researcher Peter von Sengbusch tells us, the attempt to cultivate increasingly productive varieties by irradiation to cause mutations widely proved to be a failure. Lonig, the scientist mentioned earlier, concluded that mutations cannot transform an original species into an entirely new one. This conclusion agrees with all the experiences and results of mutation research of the 20th century taken together, as well as with the laws of probability. This was simply a theory that was promptly disproven, but is being taught as fact. But honest, you say, even if this is true, isn't there proof to support the claim that natural selection chooses beneficial mutations to produce new species? What about the 13 species of finches studied by Darwin on the Galapagos Islands, now known as Darwin's finches? Well, in the 1970s, a research group led by Peter R. and B. Rosemary Grant, of Princeton University, began studying these finches and discovered that after a year of drought on the islands, finches that had slightly bigger beaks survived more readily than those with smaller beaks. Since observing the size and shape of the beaks is one of the primary ways of determining the 13 species of finches, these findings were assumed to be significant. The Grants have estimated, continues the NAS brochure, that if droughts occur about once every 10 years on the islands, A new species of finch might arise in only about 200 years. However, the NAS brochure neglects to mention that in the years following the drought, finches with smaller beaks again dominated the population. The researchers found that as the climatic conditions on the island changed, finches with longer beaks were dominant one year, but later those with smaller beaks were dominant. They also noticed that some of the different species of finches were interbreeding and producing offspring that survived better than the parents. They concluded that if the interbreeding continued, it could result in the fusion of two species into just one. So, does natural selection really create entirely new species? In 1999, evolutionary theorist Jeffrey H. Schwartz wrote that natural selection may be helping species adapt to the changing demands of existence, but it is not creating anything new. No matter the so-called species of finch, they were all still finches. A single organism did not transform into an ape, one species, and later into a human being. So does this mean we turn against all science? No. The problem with both creationism and atheism is a lot of it is hypocritical. Many will cherry-pick what teachings or theories they think is right and ignore the teachings that are inconvenient to them. Many even claim the Bible contradicts itself. Is there really proof of this? It's time for the truth to be exposed. See Part 3 for more.